Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. We are so happy you're here with us today. It is interview day, and it is also Sick Tova and Riley Day. So bear with us. We have some congested voices happening, but we're going to do our best to not share any of our coughing fits with you. It has been a very long, very dark February for both of us, and one shining light in all of it is that we get to do this interview today, which I am super, super excited. We're spending season 10, as you know, talking all about how-tos and how-tos that will help you live the limitless life that you deserve to be living, whatever that looks like for you. So before we dive in to our interview and our guest for today, which I, again, am very excited about, I'm going to say hello, as I always do, to Tova, my incredible co-host. I know how you're feeling today, Tova, but tell everyone else what's happening.
Well, I think the fact is that I shouldn't make jokes when I go to places like Great Wolf Lodge and send you a text and go, at least I will have time to get over the cold, flu, or strep that I get by coming here. Because this past weekend, I went to Great Wolf Lodge, and as I walked in, I sent you said text. And in fact, 2 days later, I had strep throat. And now I have strep throat. So all I can say is it is at least something that an antibiotic still, it responds to an antibiotic. So yay for that.
Yeah. No, so we are like both of us have been muddling through the month of February. We are recording at the very end of February right now. I had flu for like ever. I don't know. I feel like I've been sick for for 84 years right now. And Tova, you've had like ups and downs all month. It's just been
a month. Yeah.
And you know what I keep thinking about, and then I will stop and we'll get into our interview. But what I keep thinking about is how in January we were like, no, we hibernate in January, and then in February we get to things. And the universe,
we did this last year.
Did we do this last year? The
Yes,
universe said, nah, is basically what happened. And it was like, you're going to get nothing done in February other than trying to recover from either your children's illnesses or your illnesses or like just life
whatever
stuff
the universe throws at you. Yeah, and
it's
interesting because my kids yesterday morning when I was like, I can't take you to school, you have to walk, you have to make your lunches, they were like on it. They were like, okay, making lunches and like going to school. And then last night they were like, Mom, what's for dinner? And I was like, I'm still in the same position, except now I'm smellier. Like, what makes you think? But that was they were like, no, you had 8 hours. I don't know why you think you get more.
They were like, you're done.
Yeah.
As I was driving to swim practice last night and had my son in the car, he was like, I don't know, Mom, what's wrong? And I was like, buddy, I just still really don't feel well. Like I'm really struggling and whatever. He's like, yeah, you're fine though, because you're up and around and doing stuff.
Well, so I know we're gonna do an interview, and I'm really excited to do the bio. But one more thing, yes, because the night before, my son, as I was starting to get sick, but we didn't know it was strep, and we didn't know how. I knew I didn't feel well. I just didn't know how bad I was going to feel.
Yeah,
I just didn't. I was just like, I just really don't feel well. And my son was like, why are you being so mean? And why won't you answer my questions? And I'm like, I keep telling you that I don't feel good.
That's the answer.
Like, I'm not intentionally ignoring you or being mean. I'm just keep telling you I don't feel good.
Right.
Why can't that be the answer? But apparently that was not the correct answer. So anyway.
Well, the good news is today we have voices. So we're recording. And Tova, you're going to introduce our guest for today.
I am. So I am so excited to introduce our guest for today. She is a mom, and I only say that because we're just talking about our kids, because she is so many other things as well.
Yeah.
And we grabbed her bio right off her website, and I'm going to read it basically word for word because I love it so much. A true entrepreneur at heart, and with an endless drive, fiery spirit, and never-ending desire to build, design, and create. A graduate with a business degree from Marymount Manhattan College in New York City, Danielle established a career in the corporate sector of the fashion industry, quickly working her way up to a national sales manager level with over a decade of overseeing brands both in the US and internationally. While building her early career in the fashion industry, she saw the opportunity to capitalize on the food truck craze by simultaneously launching one of the first ever fashion trucks in 2012, Chic Rattle and Roll, a mobile boutique on wheels featured in such publications as the Wall Street Journal and Time New York. And now I'm going, there we go. Her most important role is being the mom to her three young children, Madison, Jagger, and Bellamy. Having a career that allows her to be hands-on with her children has always been a priority, but fueling her fire to work and make a name for herself has never wavered since a young age. Upon meeting her now husband and longtime fitness, health, and wellness expert, Danielle Kermizian, he quickly became her biggest inspiration and cheerleader, and her passion for building brands went into overdrive. The two opened the doors of the compound in September 2020, originating as a high-end fitness studio. Compound is now home to the 2022 Best of Essex County Gold-winning Best Coffee Shop, the Compound Coffee Company, and a popular event space hosting weekly events from children's and adult birthday parties, corporate and networking events, wellness and fitness events, showers, and more. There is so much we want to talk to Danny about. We are so excited that she is here. So welcome, Danielle Kermizian. We are so happy that you are here to join us.
Oh, hi guys. Thank you so
Hi.
much for having me. So happy and so honored truly to talk to you both. Really excited.
Well, I know we have a lot of questions we want to jump
Yeah.
into. I did not line up, even though I was here and watching all along, that you started the compound in September of 2020. That is
Yeah.
an exciting time to start a new business.
That was just like yeah, I mean, truthfully, we as an extension of the Brian had his own small kind of just personal training studio right down the road actually in Cedar Grove. And we were, when we met and once we started dating and everything, this is where my brain goes into overdrive. I'm like, you got to make this bigger. You can make this better. You're so good, more people, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I've always wanted, more space. So we started looking for bigger spaces, really like the fall of 19 and winter of 2020. So we found where we are now. We found it in it was about February, March of 2020. Well, I'm sorry, it would have been January, February 2020. We signed the lease for May of 2020, and then shit hit the fan with the world.
Yeah.
So basically, obviously, our lease, they said, let's see what happens with everything. But we basically spent, which is kind of interesting, we spent quarantine home with our kids here, but I was really honed in on building the brand and building the business and all that stuff at home. So we were finally able to really open the doors. We started getting in there in August of 2020, and we launched our first, group classes and trainers, everything in September. But at that point, it was like the hardest thing to navigate because things were, we were doing classes outside. There was the separation, we had things on the floor 6 feet apart. I mean, it was crazy, but we made it work. And we still had a great community and clients that Brian had and our trainers had before, came back when they were comfortable and, or they did virtuals and stuff. But we kind of slowly started this amazing business, in one of the toughest times. So I guess it could have been a hot mess if, starting something during COVID, but obviously it's worked out.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of
It was scary. Yeah.
yeah, it takes a lot of willingness to take a risk and perseverance, and also putting that in the midst of your marriage becomes a
Yeah.
whole other side thing. So we like to start our interviews with challenging questions.
Oh, good.
Because we want people to know where they're at right away. And as you know, this whole season is about how to's, right? And we're doing everything from how to have a skincare routine to how to make
Sure.
friends. We're doing everything.
Yeah.
What kind of how to do you wish you had a better understanding of to sort of improve your limitless vision for your life?
Oh,
I know
that's
it's a hard question and
that's
we're
really
just throwing
hard.
you in the deep end.
Like what kind of how
Yeah, like
to
what don't you know that you wish you knew, right? Like what, or maybe you don't even, for me, like sometimes like I don't even know what I don't know. Like I know I'm missing a lot of things, but I don't know what they are.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's like it's kind of the question that you ask, fellow moms, fellow business, fellow friends, fellow your therapist, whatever. It's like
Yep.
really, how do you do it all and like still maintain, how do I work, whether you own a business or you work in, for someone in corporate, whatever, it's all the juggling. I think it's really like, how do you efficiently, my biggest thing would be even still to this day, because some days I have breakdowns. I'm like, how do you manage time? How do you efficiently manage like your life? I mean, I think that's kind of, it's almost vague, but it's like, that's what I ask myself every day.
Yeah.
How do you do, be a mom, do practices, do this, and also I mean, I don't even know if there's an answer for that, to be honest with you. But for me, that's one of the biggest how-tos every day. I have to like set time even to try and reset and say, okay, I can't tackle it all right now. I'm just gonna have to, and I still don't know how to do it, to be honest, being moms, working, doing practices, coaching, stuff like that.
Right.
It's kind of vague. I think I'm cheating with that because I think everyone probably asks that, but that's what I go through in my life. And like I ask my therapist or my energy, I love speaking to people and getting feedback and working through my stuff because I do so much that I'm crazy. So I think that's one of my biggest, questions, even for myself, self-help is like, how do you do it all and how do you manage time efficiently where you're not taking on too much or not giving enough attention to something that, whether it's the kids or your business or whatever, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I think that is not a cheating question. I think that is something that, as you said, we all struggle with and we all try to figure out because
Yeah,
it's hard and it's a valid
absolutely.
question.
Totally.
Um, Tova and I spent a lot of time talking about this, and we're doing an episode on this, aren't we, Tova, about balance versus harmony and how do we define these things for ourselves, because we as and I'll let you get to the next question in a second, Tova, but we as a society have gone through this phase of like women should be home and make babies and be barefoot pregnant, and then we went to like, oh no, women can do it all, and like the 17 other jobs we all have.
Right.
And now I think it makes a lot of sense to stop and think about like, no, we can't necessarily do it all. We can do some things some days and some things the next day, right? Like we can't do it
Sure.
all at once. And
Right.
I think that that is something that we all, everyone I know struggles with. Certainly
Totally.
I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely do too.
Yeah, or we can't do it all without help. I
Yeah.
appreciate Shonda Rhimes's book where she talks about like her kids' nannies. And
Oh my
she's
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
and she's like, yeah, I'm able to do all this because I have really great nannies and
Right.
caregivers and like and my kids love them. Like
Right.
and they're happy when they're with them. And like that's how I can do it. And I and now when I go to like conferences with women and when the people on stage are going, well, I just get up earlier and then I do this. And I want to be like, okay, but seriously,
Yeah.
who
It's
is
sad.
helping you? Because
Right.
Yeah.
you are in the C-suite of a massive corporation, so you can afford it. Like, are you, is it like, forget Instacart. Like, is someone buying your groceries and then cutting up the fruit and putting them in your fridge? Because you can pay people to do that. Like,
Sure.
and if you are at a women's conference talking about balance and you are not letting the women in the audience know who is
It's
helping you,
helping. Yeah.
then you're being disingenuous.
Yeah.
Sure. Agreed.
Um, so I think talking about like you said, like what can I do today, but not all, like so it's not just time management, but it's kind of like how am I choosing to spend my time?
Try and prioritize it. I'm still trying to navigate it, but I'm working on it. The understanding the how to of managing it all. But to your point, there's a lot of people that help, and I would never not give them credit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
um on that, I talked a little about in your bio, and you have this great bio where clearly you have been an entrepreneur for quite a while. But
Sure.
is there a certain moment or experience from your life thus far that has led you to where you are? That like were you like lemonade stands out front in front of your house when you were a kid, or like?
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, there's good parts of it and sad parts of it that totally molded me into the way that I am. But both of my parents, I had a wonderful upbringing with two loving parents, and my parents are the best, and they've, supported, me my whole life and given me a great upbringing. But both my parents were very successful business people. My dad owned his own business, um, really, since his father started a like sporting goods wholesale business, which is just awesome. And it was so much fun when I was a kid, but they did uniforms, jerseys for high school teams. So like if it was here, it'd be like doing all the Verona uniforms, Montclair, Glamour, like an Academy apparel, but not in that it's a much bigger level of, it was a huge corporation that he started. Anyway, then they did all the, private schools. So Newark Academy, MKA, it would be like that kind of
Mhm.
equivalent in the DC area, which if you know DC, Maryland, DC, Virginia, we have some of the best schools in the nation there. We're all then up to the Redskins and the Ravens. They would do all the embroidery. So his father started that business, and my dad was there since he was 16. He took over the business, and that was his entire life. He retired a couple years ago and sold it to a huge corporation, BSN Sports. So it's pretty awesome. But I watched my dad work, and he was a workaholic. He was around, he coached us, but I watched his work ethic, and I truly admired him because he had a huge company and a huge staff, but it was always him being in front of the customer. I feel like I'm going to get teary-eyed. I don't know. It's so weird. Oh my gosh. I miss my parents. They're in Texas with my sister all winter, so I get like upset. But anyway, I watched him do he had the guys that delivered the trucks of the helmets and all this stuff, but he would do it, and he would devote all his time to his clients and his customers and the coaches, and he would go himself and be there and be in front of everybody, and it's amazing. And so I watched that my whole life. And then my mom was no big deal. One of the first female federal agents in the government. She was a postal, I mean, she was huge. She was a postal inspector, which is above like the FBI. And she was one of the first, honestly, the first female federal agents, 28 years. So she came home, she worked on the Unabomber case. She had all the, there's no shortage of hardworking, people around me with my parents, and they were great parents. They worked hard. Luckily to them, to their point, to your point earlier, they had great childcare, my aunts and my babysitters that helped us because they worked hard. But I watched that, and I kind of took that in from like a young age. It really made me want to do that, and that to be that kind of a hard worker. And it also kept my mind off of things at a young age to kind of do things, starting like my own little businesses here and there. And then I started working the second I was allowed to, which was whatever at that age, 13 or 14. I worked at a little coffee shop, actually, ice cream shop. I always wanted to like work and earn money, but my younger sister was actually diagnosed with leukemia when I was 4. When she was 4, I was 8. So I think with that trauma in my life, I'm actually realizing it now at an older age. It just it kind of put me in a place where my family was absolutely there for me, and everybody, did what they had to do. But at that time, at these young, the young pivotal age in my life, I kind of was on my own a little bit, had to kind of take care of myself. And it just put me into overdrive to like always take care of myself and work hard. And, even though my parents did everything for me, it made me very much feel like I had to have that inner strength. And I think it gave me the work ethic I have today because I kind of can't stop. It's a problem, but it's a good thing. But and my sister, she's alive and well to this day, but back then it was a really grim diagnosis back in the 90s. It was not good.
Yeah.
So I think from those things, I realize now as an adult, even talking with therapy and going through these things, like that kind of trauma that I went through at a young age really molded who I am today. And also obviously seeing my parents have this amazing work ethic, but it kind of put me in overdrive with like wanting to do well and wanting to do good for myself and wanting to build things. It kept me busy. It kept my mind off of like sadness too, with stuff like that, which I know that there's so many people out there that deal with childhood trauma in their own, ways. And that was something I think that really propelled me into the way that I became, really, truly.
Yeah, I mean, I think any major life event at an early age like that is
Yeah.
going to have a massive impact on your future, and clearly impacted your values
In a
and
good way
your,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it can, yeah, for sure. And it impacted your values, your belief systems. How do you, and do you consciously, I mean, you just talked about it a little bit, but let's go in a little more on it. How do you apply those values and beliefs besides working hard? Because like obviously you're working hard, but what other values and beliefs from all of that experience, that life experience you've had, what other values and beliefs come into play in your sort of day-to-day life, like of working, of parenting, of relationshiping, all those things?
I think, if you want to be good in business, whether you're owning your own or working somewhere else, working for someone, and however, whatever that looks like for you, I think I honed in on appreciating the people around me, whether they work for me or they're helping me, and really like trying to kind of take care. I think that's another thing. It just made me kind of turn me into that. But it's like, even if it's my business and I'm doing this and I own this and I started this or whatever, I think or even with when I worked in the corporate industry and I worked for someone, is really like appreciating what you have and those around you that are helping you every day, whether it's your coworkers or the people that work for you, with you. I think it's really important to embrace what's around you. Like even seeing my dad, you know, he didn't have to go make those deliveries. He had guys that did deliveries. It was a point where my mom's like, what are you doing? Just let the guys do it. The girls have practice, you got to be home. But it was very important to him to show his appreciation to those around him. And I feel like I try and instill that now, even with the coffee shop and the customers and people that come in, and being appreciating what you have and those who work with you and for you is something that I think is one of the biggest things to value and take in every day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, as you are, I know you have just, maybe not just, because I lose all track of time. You could have done it like last month, or you could have done it like a
I,
year ago.
me too.
But now I know you are launching or have launched a design company.
Oh,
Is that,
yeah,
I
people are
didn't
going
mean
to be like, what are your listeners are going to be like, what is this girl? She owns a gym and a coffee shop and she's a designer. Like, it almost makes me sound nutty. I don't know, but I think those that know me best are just like, this is just
Well,
you.
so I think though,
It's
if somebody walked into
maybe
your
that, yeah,
coffee shop
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they
it would
looked
be very
around
clear.
Yeah.
and they went into especially the library area, you'd be like, oh, well, clearly whoever designed this library should be a designer.
Well, and you
Right.
know what? And in true, like full transparency, that is kind of how it started. And it took me a while for me to even like own this and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this because I did own these. We do own a business, and it's very, it's a lot of work. And then you have 3 kids on top of that. But it was like, I really have to follow through with this passion of mine. And that is designing and renovating. I'm not an architect. I'm certainly not a traditional interior designer, and there's no judgment on an interior designer, but I'm not going to um have you hire me to come to your house and buy your drapes and wallpaper and this like that. It's more of like, I like to see a space and I visually can just like think of how I can make it better, and then also prettier too, like with aesthetics. But this wall needs to come down, this needs to open up, that's kind of where it all started. And I've done it with all my houses that I've lived in. But I really, with the house that we live in now in Verona, the house Brian and I first bought together, 5 years ago, I've kind of almost done every little thing I can with this house to like fuel my drive to do things. And then when we had the gym, I used that as an outlet as well to design it. But then it was kind of like, okay, this is as much as it gets. Then the coffee shop, then I made the library lounge. And I just love doing things like that. And then that's really how it started, from friends, but also from, customers coming in, like, who designed this place? This is amazing. Can you do? And then, of course, I don't like to be like, oh, it's me. I don't really say anything, but everybody else is like, she did it. The owner did it. And they're like, what? Then it would be, can you come design my office for me? Can you come do this? And so it really just, it went from a side hobby, like, sure, I'll help you do this. Sure, I'll help you do this, to like full-blown construction projects for, additions and doing all this stuff. And I use the guys that I use my guys that I use for all my projects that did the gym. Like, I have loyalty to those guys, and they're amazing at what they do. And I'm lucky. I have a great group of contractors that I work with. So I'm basically like a GC. It's more of like, I'm a general contractor. I'm not physically doing the work. Although I can do some stuff, but yeah, if I do, renovation things on the side, and it's kind of like more full-time, I guess you could say. But yeah, it started out as a hobby. It's something I absolutely love. Love, 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 love.
So I'm fascinated right now because the
It's
way
crazy.
you're super confident, and which is awesome. I love
Well,
it. But the way you talk about yourself and your design, and I'm totally going off script and whatever,
That's
but
my
the way
favorite
you
part.
talk about yourself and your design business, it's almost downplaying it, like you're uncomfortable or
well,
like you're not sure you should be doing it, or like people aren't going to take you seriously. And I'm curious where that's coming from, because like you seem like you dive in and you seem like you just like, you're like, I'm going to start a business, it's going to succeed, things are going to work
yeah,
out, right?
yeah. I
And
mean,
yet at the same time, and I'm bringing this up because everyone feels this way about something, and I want
sure,
people to hear like what's going on and how you're obviously overcoming it because you're doing it, but like
right.
what's going on in the process.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that, you know, I think for me, I think there's a little bit of like, we all have our own forms of like anxiety and therapy in this. And,
Yeah.
I do have, good bits of OCD and behavior behavioral patterns that I've developed over the years. And really a lot of it really does stem from childhood stuff.
Yep.
So I kind of use my, any anxiety or sadness or things that I might have like deep down, and I compel myself, I put myself, which everyone has stuff, right? I use those things as drives to move forward and succeed, because when I do, or when something works out, it just is so gratifying for me, and it brings me so much joy and appreciation. And it's like Tova. I mean, when you come into my coffee shop, I appreciate so much. I discount people to the point where it's like unhealthy. Everyone's like, you can't be behind the register. You need to stop. But I'm just so grateful for where these businesses have, or what they've become, that I use that as drive. And it does get to a point where it's a little unhealthy, I guess. And I hope that that can help people maybe know that not everything is meant to succeed or work out. And I don't think that everything I touch turns to gold and everything works out. It's not that way. It's just, you have to have the right head on your shoulders, and it comes with confidence, but it also comes with, you know, I want to do this for myself. If you're not doing it for yourself, I don't know who you're doing it for, but if it's not for yourself, then I don't know if that's the right, if you're in the right place I'm not saying anyone's in the right or wrong to do something, but for me, it gives me so much inside to see something go through. And I'm not going to say I don't get really bad nerves. And like, even the coffee shop was honestly one of the riskiest things. That was the riskiest thing I've ever done. Doing the design work is the construction stuff is like, it's kind of hard to not like it. I mean, if you have an eye and you're going to design your whole kitchen yourself and you know what you want, I'm just going to work with you to get it done. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to come in and be like, oh, this looks like crap. If you are like, I want this, this, and this, I just help you get it done. So that business is more just like, I know I have such great people working with me, and I know that I'm nuts enough to be super organized to get it done, where I'm not, overly concerned about, it's not confidence and arrogance or anything. It's more of just like, I have such great people working for me, and I'm going to not let you down as my client. And with the coffee shop and starting that, business like that, it's like, if you're going to take the risk and you're going to do something, I hope you're doing it for yourself. And for me, it was those kinds of things or something I really want to do, because it's going to make me feel good. It's going to make me feel better inside, or like I'm succeeding in something and doing a challenge of something that is very hard to overcome, and you have to be doing it for yourself inside. Really, you have to really want something. I tell people all the time, don't do it unless, like, things can really, things, it's a lot doing your own business or doing something it's a huge leap of faith for a lot of people, and it can tear you inside, and it can also not be successful. You have to really want to do it for yourself, not for anyone else.
That's
I have so many
fantastic
questions.
advice. Yeah, I do too. Excuse me. I'm like,
I'm sure.
I have
I
so
can't,
much. I have so
I'm
much.
sure.
And first of all, I think, like, just as an aside, for anyone who's listening who like doesn't know New Jersey or Verona or where your coffee shop is, like, I think your coffee shop is like in this little, and Riley's been there because I've
Yeah.
brought her there. It's not in a place that screams like this is where a very successful coffee shop is going to
No,
be.
it's not at all.
And it's like a medical, like there's medical offices and stuff. And so I like
You don't
the
have to
fact,
sugarcoat it. It's weird.
yeah, and yet it is a very
Yeah.
successful coffee shop. And that, I think, goes to you and your, just like you said, the people you've hired and
Yeah.
the people that you bring in, and just like even the repeat customers. Like,
Yeah.
I almost can't go there without running into, and part of it's because Verona is such a small town, but like go in there without running into somebody that I know.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
now it's always somebody I know because like I know the people who work there. So,
Yeah, no, it's true. People have met from there, whether you know them from town or not, but like regulars that are completely different people hanging out, they talk to each other. Like, it's so cool. Like, they don't even have kids in the same grades or sports or anything, and they probably will never see each other outside of the coffee shop, but they're regular and she's a regular, and then they just talk. And then there's people from even other towns that Essex Fells, Caldwell's, even Montclair, and they come in, and they know each other, and it's like, there's nothing better for me than that. But
and
yeah,
I mean, I think that goes to like your spirit that you put into the coffee shop. Like that's what makes people go like, all right, this seems like a weird place to turn for a coffee shop. Oh, look, there it
yeah,
is.
yeah, so
Um,
weird.
and you brought up, and I think this is like, I love talking to people about failure because I think it's so hard. It's such, at least for when we were growing up, it was like such a dirty word. And I think
Yeah.
that like our parents' generation, especially, um, there was a lot of emphasis on like doing something that you knew you could do so that you wouldn't fail, right? And like you wouldn't get in trouble, and you would just toe the line. So I don't know if you've had businesses that have failed or not, but when you have experienced failure, how have you dealt with that? How have you either learned from it or approached it?
I mean, I think that even if it's not necessarily like failure in terms of like your business failed, you have to close your doors. I'm fortunate enough to say that hasn't happened, but there's definitely going to be hurdles and letdowns and disappointments. And I think that the only way, and there's days where I've gotten sad or cried about something, things that have not worked out, and that can be considered a failure in business, right? And whatever that may look like. If you can't take that failure, the same as the drive that you have to get there, if you can't take that failure and internalize it and say, what could I have done better? Not beating yourself up, but saying, what could I have done better, or what can I do going forward to make sure this doesn't happen, or whether it's with the next business you have or the business you're currently in, to never let this happen again. If you don't sit and take the time to like mull on that, I think that's one of the biggest things, because there's people that just brush it off and say, oh, screw it, like I'm done, I didn't do this right, or that'll never happen again, or whatever. There has to be a time where you kind of, and even in the busy lives we all have, where we're all over the place, if you can't sit and talk about it, whether it's with yourself, your spouse, your friend, and fix it internally in your brain, or think about what can I do to avoid this from happening again, whether it's another business idea you have or something in the business you have to be able to do that. You really have to take the time. I know we always say we don't have time, but those kinds of things are what keeps your business from not falling apart again, or not something not happening. If you don't take it all in and take the time to figure out what got you there to begin with, what got you there to have the business to fail, or have, something go wrong, then you're not going to succeed. I think that's a huge thing, is really taking the time to, kind of mull it all over and see what got you there to begin with. I know it's
Um,
kind of
no, I think you're 100% correct. And I want to talk more about failure and like specifically how failure was managed in your lifetime, like with your family systems and all
sure.
that. We do need to take a quick break. We're a little
Sure.
behind in our breaks.
Only like a
So
half an hour. It's fine.
yeah, that's fine. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about failure and how to deal with it. We'll be right back, everyone. Well, hey there, Dream Chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like-minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential. With expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind-hearted accountability, and a supportive network, the Year of You is more than just a goal-setting group. It's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes, or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/year of you to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The Year of You, where your goals become reality. All right. So, welcome back to the show, everyone. So, before the break, Danny, I was talking about, well, you were talking about failure and sort of your take on how you deal with failure now. I think, and I agree with everything you said, just to be very clear. But I think most people, maybe not most people, but a lot of people internalize failure. And a lot of people take failure to mean they are the failure, right? Not the
Right.
thing that happened. And I'm
Sure.
curious to understand for our listeners to maybe change that script of how that script runs in their minds. Did you grow up in an environment where failure was embraced, where risk taking was embraced? Is it something you worked on in therapy? Is it like just a part of your personality? Where is it coming from for you?
Like, where is the like,
Your perspective on failure, like where does that come from?
you know, it's so interesting, because I just had like a really deep conversation about this. And, I never, I was raised like Catholic, Roman Catholic, like CCD, confirmation, all that. And, I believe in the church, I believe in God and all those things. Obviously, I appreciate that side. But I also, in my adult years, over the last several years, I've become very sort of spiritual, and I believe a lot in energy and healing. And I'm not the one that does the crystals and the cards and the kumbaya. I'm not like that. That's not my personality. But I do believe in energy, and I have an amazing woman that I work with that's changed my life over the last several years, and I firmly believe in energy healing and all those kinds of things, and diving into like not past lives, like my past and my childhood and things I've suppressed, that I get to now kind of pull out and see why I am the way that I am. And she actually made me realize, not long ago, a couple of years ago, that when I started the compound, and when I, like I said to you guys earlier, when I decided I was going to do the coffee shop, which again was just Danny being Danny, and I'm like, we're going to do a coffee shop. I was 3 months pregnant with my third, with me and Brian's, our first child together, our first and only, because I'm certainly not having any more children. But I'm like, we're going to open a coffee shop. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, we love coffee. We have this space. We're going to open a coffee shop. Everywhere Brian and I go, I'm going off on a tangent, which I
We love
do.
tangents.
But every
Yeah.
time we travel, whether we go to the Catskills or whether we're in another country, we love finding good local coffee shops and the cool ambiance. And obviously the what you're being served has to be delicious. That's how we are. We're coffee people, but I don't have a family that has a farm. We're not making beans in my, like, I don't have any history. So I said, we're going to open a coffee shop. Brian's like, that's a great idea, but that's insane. And also you're like 3 months pregnant. So, and I'm like, no, we're going to do it. And we're going to do it like now. And this was January 2021 that I had the conversation. There was snow on the ground. I think I just barely had my 2.5 month like ultrasound, and the coffee shop opened in July. So those 6 months, I put myself into this mode, and I now bring it out. I talk about it with my therapy, with energy. It actually became almost so compulsive and unhealthy that I was like, you cannot fail. You're going to do this. This is one of the biggest things. I mean, like I'm not a coffee like connoisseur. Like, who do you think you are? You're going to open up this coffee shop and it's going to be amazing and successful. And I put myself into such high stress, even during my pregnancy, of like, I have to do this. I have to do it. I can't fail. It's got to be amazing. It's got to have great product. And I now dig into where that came from. And it was like this deep, long ago childhood of like kind of being alone when my little sister was sick and everyone around me was there for her, and not in a mean way. But it was like she delved into my past and was like, well, what about Danny? Like, who's taking care of Danny? Like, she's by herself. And I grew up with like, I have to be the best at what I do. I put myself into overdrive with sports and with, I wasn't like the straight A student. I did have fun, but like, I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the best school. I'm going to get the best job. I did compelled myself into that as opposed to drugs, alcohol, and depression. Of course, I had, drinks and whatever, like a normal high school, college kid. But I'm saying I went in that overdrive. I think it was a fear. It's almost like a fear of failure, but it was like this, like fear of being kind of like alone or kind of like, I got to take care of myself. Not alone, but I know that there's so many people out there that like I never really even dealt with this at an older age. I never dealt with this until my adult years of where this comes from. And that like fear of failure and control over my environment. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. It was my therapy. It was my way of coping with sadness that I had. And I'm sure there are so many people out here that dealt with childhood trauma and deal with their own forms of anything from I had the most amazing family in the entire world, and they gave me everything and they gave us the best upbringing, but like I went through something awful too, and so did my sister, way worse than what I went through. But it's my story and it's what I went through, and it's the way that I felt that propelled me into the way that I am. So I think that there are these deep inner feelings that people have that maybe they don't know are there, and kind of like being able to embrace those things. My fears of failure, my fears of not being able to control the situation around me, seeing my sister sick, it was devastating. It was the worst time of my life, and I'm a little kid. I don't know how to deal with that. So I just took those methods into kind of making myself into a lunatic. Like, I'm just going to do everything I can to do everything, I don't know. It's just, it's just who I am, but I'm starting to really understand it and embrace it, I guess you could say. And now your therapy session is over.
Honestly, it's fantastic.
People are going to be like, who is this woman?
No, they're not.
What
They
I
hear
wanted-
from us all the time.
So yeah, I was just gonna say, we tell people all the time how much we encourage people to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And A, because it's wonderful, but B, because like it sounds like have had a fair amount of therapy and have an energy healing, which we're big fans of as well.
That's my therapy.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
we love it.
you have figured out some things, and you're able to say like, okay, some of this can be a superpower for me. Like,
Sure.
it's not going to go anywhere. It's shaped my personality. It's how I handle stress.
Yes.
So I can use it as a superpower, but I also can be aware of it, right?
But
Like
it can also be unhealthy,
right,
like,
but now I'm aware of it, and I'm also
sure.
not 8 anymore.
Right.
Like,
Right, exactly. And I think, being able to understand where it comes from, like if you have my husband here, he's like gonna sit and tell you she doesn't sit still. There's gonna be another business. There's gonna be another renovation. Like, she's crazy and in a good way, but in a like compulsive way. And that's also where you say, okay, I can step back and realize that I don't have to do something to make myself feel like that's going to be the right answer for right now. Like, nurture what you have. And I think, but it's also just the way that people deal with, I know that everyone's story is so different, which is why it's, but I know that there's so many things that everyone has deep. And even just sharing my story with, some people, I've heard their own stories. And some people dealt with abuse and all sorts of things. Like, who hasn't dealt with stuff? And it can kind of shape who we are as adults and shape our work ethic. And I think that that's something I've really kind of understand the good and the bad about it with me. Like, the success is great, but there's also parts of it, like the fear of failing, the fear of, doing something that's not going to work out when everyone's saying everything you do works out. Okay, well, what if this doesn't work out? It's a really fine line that you kind of, it's hard to find. Like, when you have people telling you everything is great, this is so great what you do, and then you're like, okay, well, now I really can't fail. I mean, people have to be able to embrace things not working out too, because that's the only way that you're human. Like, I've had things that don't work out, and it's okay. It doesn't have to fail, but there's things that don't end up working out, and you have to be able to embrace those and learn from them too, or you're not going to be able to be successful or at your most successful, place.
Yeah. I think so many of us have trauma responses, right? Like
Sure.
learned trauma responses, whether they're in our body or in our actions or both.
Sure.
And one of, I think, the most healing things we can do for ourselves and the people around us is just to talk about them and
Sure.
to be aware of the fact that that's what's happening, right? And like we've said several times now, they can be your superpower. It can be like, I can
Absolutely.
hyper focus on this thing and get this done and be a workhorse and all that stuff.
Exactly.
But it can be really detrimental to your mental health as well and your physical health.
Absolutely.
Um, but the key is awareness and being willing to have open and honest conversations about what it is that we're experiencing, why are we experiencing it, and what direction do we need to go with it. Sometimes we need to sit in it, and that's okay, as long
Yep.
as it's not like, decades of our lives and then we haven't done anything for a
Sure.
while.
And
But
I think that's, yeah, to your point, that's a really good point. And I've talked enough, but I want to say, like, your point is so strong, because that's something I've dealt with, where it's like I have that pattern of just hyper focused or hyper drive, like, got to do this, got to do this. Well, sometimes you don't want to sit with it because it hurts,
yeah,
right? And then
yeah,
and that's my coping mechanism, is to keep moving and keep moving and keep moving. And then it
yeah.
becomes where you're running, almost not running, but sometimes it's really healthy to talk and sit with it. And I'm realizing that more now. So that's a great point.
Yeah, well, and I think so many of us, certainly us like type A, very, very focused people,
Yeah.
try to control outcomes. And,
Always. Can't do it all.
we can't control what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
All we can control is how we react to what happens and like the things we do leading up to what happens. But whatever the
So
outcome
true.
is what it is. And I think getting in tune with your spiritual side, whether, I mean, I'm super woo, so like I'm on the far end of the woo, but like even if you're not, even if you're
Super
just
woo. I
somebody,
love that.
yeah, even if you're just somebody who's like, well, maybe I believe in a higher power, like getting in touch with that um connectedness
Yeah.
to the world around you and the people around you is one of the like healthiest things you can do for yourself. I do want to get
Absolutely.
to our how-tos. I know
Sure.
we're running
I
over
know
because this is too much fun.
yeah, I have like I could talk to you for
I
days,
mean, I'm
clearly.
I'm the worst. You'll never have me on again. It'll be like a 4-hour
Oh
episode.
no,
That will
we
just
will
have
have
you
you
on
on again
repeatedly.
because we have
That's what's
so
gonna
many more
happen.
questions.
Oh my gosh.
um, so we want to talk to you about like practically starting a business,
Sure.
right? Because we want
Yeah.
people to not only take away your journey with them and like learn from that and all those things, but like
Really.
when we all three of us have started multiple businesses, and so we have a sense of like what it is. But if you've never done it before, it can feel super overwhelming. Like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. Not to
Yeah.
mention Tova and I are both lawyers. So we like have, we have some background in how you do
Oh
all these
yeah, you
things.
guys probably have a lot of things that you could correct us all on. So
But what I'd love for you to share is like the minute, like if somebody came to you and was like, I have a business idea, I don't know what to do next. Like, what would you tell them as the first thing to do?
So I think that one of the biggest things, depending on what that business is, right, is looking at what's around you and understanding what your market is going to be, whatever that may be. If you're starting your own podcast, or you're starting a design logo graphic design company, or you're opening a coffee shop or a gym or whatever, I think you really need to understand where you're trying to go with it. What's that market? Like who are you pushing out to? Do you have a market for it? And I'm thinking more along the sides of physical, because so much stuff is online now. So that's kind of a little vague, but I think really understanding what your market's going to be before you start going and getting a name and filing a business like it licenses. Where am I trying to target physically? If I'm opening up here, who else is around me? What else is around me? What are they doing? What do I not want to do? I don't like any sort of copying off of anything, even someone around that's successful. Like, I feel like that's like just a detriment. Like, obviously people copy things, but like, I think it's so important to have an originality. So my whole thing is, if you're starting a business, who's your market, and what makes you different from who those your market is? Who are the other people around you? Why are you different than them? What makes you different, or what are you going to do that makes you different? Why are people going to come to you? You really have to have that like concept down of who am I going towards? Who am I reaching towards? Whether it's online or in a physical space, what is around me and what do they do? And what am I going to do differently? Or what do I want to do differently to make myself not better, but better than what they can go somewhere else. They could go there. They could go there. Why am I different? What makes me different? Like, what is the best way to make myself marketable? How am I going to be different from what's around and what's already out there? And I think you have to really have a keen eye for that before you just jump into something to really drive the success of your future with that business.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think it every time a new pizza shop opens up in town, because I'm like, how are we having another pizza shop?
Why?
Like I live in
Totally.
a very small town. There's only so
Yeah.
much room for pizza shops. And
100%.
I love them. They're great. They're all wonderful people. Awesome that they've started businesses. But like,
Yeah.
if you look around you and everyone else is doing it, like, where's your niche?
Exactly.
And so I think
Exactly.
that's it's often overlooked very good advice.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think especially for any sort of location, especially like
yeah.
physical business, I can speak to more than online businesses, but you're starting this shop, this business, well, where are you doing it? What is your market? If you're not honed in on an area, maybe if you want to open, you have to open it in that area. Okay, well, what's around you? Or maybe find an area that's not saturated with something like that, as
Yeah.
that might be one of your biggest selling points. So you're not a dime a dozen with what's around there. And also really why are we coming to you? Why am I coming to you? As opposed to going to someone else? What's going to set me apart? I think for me, originality is so important. When opening a business, regardless of what it is, restaurant, shop, retail. I just think it's so important. And there's so much, I mean, especially with social media and the internet now, there's so much emulating and copying and this and that and the other thing. It's like originality is still going to be the key to something. That's something I strive for at the compound, to have things that are original and do our own things. And I see people taking things and I see you, but you do you, I'm fine. I'm not taking anything from you because I don't want to. I just want to do my thing the way that I do it. And I think originality is one of the biggest words I could say to anyone starting a business is find something that is original to you, what you stand for, what's important to you, original to what you want to do, as opposed to what everyone else is doing. Even if
Well,
they're
it's
all succeeding,
interesting. Yeah, I
even if they're
mean,
all succeeding.
6 or 7 years ago, our town and really a number of the surrounding towns had no coffee shops, right? Like I mean, as someone who was walking with her kids in strollers, there was nowhere to go, right? I had a
Right.
12-year-old, I have a 10-year-old. There was nowhere to take them. I think with my 7-year-old, there was really nowhere to take him. So,
Yeah.
and then we have a
All of a
number of
sudden.
coffee shops now, but none of them are the same.
Yeah.
They have the menus are drastically different. I mean, slight overlap here or there, but like obviously it's a coffee shop. There can only be so much originality. Like,
Exactly.
but
True.
the atmosphere is different from one to
Yep.
one. The different things that you highlight, like you said, they're all very, very unique. It doesn't feel like, I mean, I'm sure from a business perspective, you feel like you're competing from them, but from as a consumer,
Consumer.
they are
Yeah,
all very, very different.
sure. They are.
And
Yeah.
and it is a saturated market, but it's also now I mean, there are a lot of people in our area, so and a lot of people like to drink coffee.
Yep. They do. Thank God. Hope that
um
doesn't change.
yeah, what is one thing that you think people like, this is we don't love these kinds of hard and fast rules, but if there's anything that you're like, man, I did it with the one business and I really shouldn't have done that and I've never done it since, like, is there something that you definitely should not do when you're starting a business?
Um, I think that one of the most important things you can do, and I'm speaking like, fellow moms, and like, you really have to be able to take on what you are doing. And I mean that in like, not a lot of people don't have crazy drive. I mean, I'm nutty. So, and again, it gets to a point where it's unhealthy. And I think I'm so appreciative for my acknowledgement of that so that I know when I gotta chill out, like don't go crazy. But like doing a business or taking something on, depending on what that business is, you have to make sure that it's going to fit with your lifestyle before you do something. When we started the fashion truck, which I was in my 20s, I was 25, 26, and I had a 1-year old, but again, it's my brain. I had my first baby at a young, I was pretty young, 26. So she was 1 years old, and I started this fashion truck, and it was amazing. But we are young and we're moms, and my best friend, my first mom friend actually started it with me. She named it. We designed this truck. It's incredible. But like, whoa, we have this amazing fashion truck, but now we're gone every weekend and now we have to be on all day. And I think, and it's not a regret, but after a few years, it became to be too much. I wish I kept it to this day. I really wish I kept it, but we sold the truck, and again, like chapters, life goes on, but you have to be sure that what you're taking on will fit the lifestyle that you have now. If you're young and you got nothing, you're good, go do what you got to do. But you really want to make sure that that business, it all seems glamorous. Like the gym kind of ran itself, the guys, the trainers, everything was great. And then it was like, okay, let's take it to the next step. Now this coffee shop is open 7 days a week. There has to be somebody there all day, every day. We have to order stuff. We can't run out of things. It just took my life from, here, stable, gym, teaching classes. Oh, I don't feel good. Cancel the class. No yoga today, whatever. Guys run their own clients. Brian runs his own client. This is all good. And then it's like, and that jump, you have to be able to, everything sounds and looks glamorous and fun, and the business idea is great, but you got to be able to take it on with the lifestyle that you have before you really take a risk like that. And it's a lot. It's a lot to consider even when you're starting your own, like, I mean, these people, you guys do these amazing podcasts, and there's so much work goes into this. I
And
actually, you
sometimes
sent me
sometimes
this,
you
I
do one
go,
when you have strep throat.
Right.
I mean, no, but I said, well, oh my God, this is amazing that they're doing this. I looked this up. I go, how do these girls have the time for this? They do so much too. It's like, take it on. You got to know, but you got to do it right. You got to work through the sicknesses, work through, your shop. Things still run. Your interviews still happen when you're sick, when your kids are this. So I feel like really making sure whatever it is that you want to do in your life is going to fit the lifestyle that you have now, not
Yeah.
let alone financials and everything. That's
Well,
another
right.
story.
There's that too. I think
Yeah.
that's fantastic advice. And people, again, like I see it all the time, people forget about these kinds of things. Like, does it make
Yeah.
sense? And I really want to circle back to something you said way back at the beginning of like doing the thing that you believe in, right? Like, do
Sure.
it for you because it's something you believe in, not because somebody else said you should or you're trying to prove something or
Or
any of
proving
those,
something. Yeah, exactly. Like proving
I
it or yeah.
yeah, I think that's super, super important. I hope people are hearing that.
Yeah.
Let's take one more break. And when we come back, I think we have one more question for you, and then we'll get into our fantastic quick response questions. But we will be right back, everyone.
Hey, pod friends, it's us again. Looking for a place to collaborate, an opportunity to share your knowledge? Have you been working so hard on a podcast, book, course, product, or retreat? Do you have insights that could light up our podcast? Well, we want to hear from you. We would love to support you in all that you are and do. Join us at Go Boldly Initiative, where we celebrate diverse perspectives and share the wisdom of our incredible community. Whether you're an expert, a hobbyist, or simply love learning, we invite you to reach out with your ideas. Visit our website at goboldlyinitiative.com/podcast guests to pitch the show or shoot us an email at hello@goboldlyinitiative.com to talk all things collaboration, advertising, and affiliation opportunities. Become part of our growing family. Let's make learning an adventure together.
Okay, so welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were talking about like your advice for people who want to start a business, what they should and shouldn't do, like where to start, all of those things. I want to wrap up the conversation with you talking to us a little bit about like, is there a decision you made based on your life that like got you to where you are today that you're super proud of, you really think was like the right decision, and sort of what did that look like?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's so interesting that you say that because I think about this like all the time. I don't think about it all the time, but I just think, um, it just kind of really it just kind of really grew me into where I am today. And I was in college in Manhattan, lived in New York City and it was awesome. And, when you're 19, 20, 21 years old, I mean, my parents paid for my college. They paid for my apartments. Could never say that they didn't. They were amazing. And, most of my friends, we all worked in the city. I mean, I worked since I was 12 and I didn't pay rent then. So I liked working, but yeah, you should work. Even though my parents helped me out, I probably didn't have to work as much as I wanted to, but we bartended, we waitressed, we made great cash. It was unbelievable back then. And I had friends that stayed in, those businesses until we were, even 2 years out of college. They're still bartending because why not? You're 22, 23, making plenty of money. I just got to a point where I think I was just shy of 21, which is just nutty. But I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I want to work full time. And I was still in my senior year of college, and I was able to get an interview with Calvin Klein as an account executive. Like this is in 2006. So I was 21 years old, whatever. And I'm like, I'm gonna go do this interview. My friends are looking at me, they're like, we have another semester of college left. Like, what are you interviewing for? And I said, I'm just gonna go. And they're like, but your job is for now. Like the interview was like, so I went and I had this interview and it was a full-time job, 35, $40,000 a year. And the guy was like, well, when you graduated? I said, oh, I graduate in May. And he said, well, it's the fall. Like, what do you, and I said, I really want to do this. And if you hire me, I'll move my classes, my remaining classes to the evening. And fast forward anyway, that is what catapulted me into my career. I had a full-time, job before I'd even graduated. They hired me and I had this amazing role and I moved all of my classes to the evening. And I think that from that point on, I was very driven to succeed in what I was doing. And I'm grateful to them for my first job, for giving me the opportunity to do that. And, I think even my paychecks were like maybe what I would make one weekend, like, bartending and waiting tables. And my friends were like, you're nuts. But I started my career and I'm super grateful for like that decision, honestly.
Yeah.
That was,
I think the takeaway for me from that is like remaining open to opportunities, right? And not
yeah,
having to define your timeline by whatever society tells you or whatever,
sure.
your friends are doing or your parents say, like being open to the possibility that there is a different direction at any given moment is certainly something that serves me in my life, but I think,
Yeah.
is reflected in what you were talking about. I think that's
It's
fantastic.
just one of those things where it was, it just the stars aligned, but it was more like my I kind of wanted to follow what was inside of me. And I feel like people just need to listen to like what, at no point somebody feel like they should have to start working their senior year and get on it. And there's times where you really should just relax and enjoy the ride. And, but I think that was just a very pivotal moment for me. And honestly, it worked out. I became a mom really young too. So it was, it all ended up, I think everything happens in life for a reason, obviously.
Yeah.
So, but that was something that definitely changed my life, that moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Let's do some quick
God,
response
enough about me.
questions.
I'm like, I don't even want to talk about me on the mic
Well, we
That's
have
anymore.
right. We're
just a
gonna
few
have you
more
on so many more
questions.
times.
No, I feel bad. I hope people, I mean, listen, I've been through to the ringer, okay? But like, it's just, this is
No, your story
life.
is something I think that will inspire people and help people make decisions and think about things in different ways. And that's our
Sure.
goal this season, right? Is to help
I hope
people.
so. I really do. I hope so. And I'm happy to talk to anybody that has any questions because it's not all like success stories.
Sure. Yeah,
It's
you're a human being with flaws. It's like,
it causes a lot of stress in marriage and in life
yes.
and everything. It's
Yeah, we may have to have you back. We didn't even get into that because that I know for me it
that poor guy and
Whew.
Brian, I got it. He's gonna listen and be like, well, what about me? He is an amazing part of that business, and he is the yin. He is the yin to my yang.
Yeah.
He is so just awesome and easy and calm, and everybody loves him. That man's there every day, and he's great. He's fantastic, but he really truly does, you know, he supports me in my craziness. I think he's just thrilled that I started doing the renovations and stuff on this. I've got like plans and stuff here. He's like, well, at least you're not touching our house and spending our money. He's like, go spend
Go spend somebody else's
money.
That's
Exactly.
fantastic. I love that.
So,
Yeah,
but
scratch that itch somewhere else.
Right.
that's what I did. He said, thank God she's doing it for somebody else, not us.
It's
But
like I
no, and
couldn't
it's
take one
true.
more
Marriage
pillow.
is a balance and anxiety and kids. And I have my kids. I have my oldest said to me once not long ago, well, you're always busy and you're always working. Because even when I'm not at the shop, I do this so that I can pick up my kids every day. I really
Yeah.
truly
Right.
one of the reasons I started this business was to be able to I'm not traveling to trade shows anymore. I sure as hell am not going into New York City. So I did this for that, but that comes with a lot too. And I hope anyone that's listening that wants to start their own business understands too that, it's hard because when you have your own business, you're always on. And I'm working even at
Yeah.
night, answering emails about events and forget the renovations, just like owning a coffee shop. Even when the coffee shop closes at 4, or there's training clients, there's people emailing, there's orders we have to put in. We're low on inventory. And I think that hurt too with my daughter when she said that to me. Well, you're always like, we're always busy. And so I've really, even since then, I've tried to really make more time or not be on my computer or my phone so much at home. But hey, I don't go to the office every day and I can't pick you up from school. And then at 6 o'clock, I come home and I'm like, okay, I don't have to do anything. Unfortunately, I have to do stuff at night because I don't stop, but I'm able to
Yeah.
pick you up every day. There's a balance. It's so hard to find the balance, but
I find with my daughter who's 11, there is no balance and like there is not enough love in the world to ever
oh,
satisfy
you have
this
no idea
child.
what's coming. He's 11.
Yeah.
Good luck. Wait
So,
till 12 and then almost 13 and just really it's
oof,
fun.
it's rough. But the point of that is like, it's very hard to set those boundaries for ourselves when we work for ourselves
Yeah.
and when we work from home. It's very hard to
It's
create
so
and
hard.
like
Yeah.
carve out time. But also on the flip side, kids will always tell you the worst possible thing. Like
Totally.
sometimes they'll tell you the nice stuff too, but they'll always be like, yeah, you never ever, not once
I'm
in a
also
million
like,
years have time for me.
yeah, but it's also like who's taking you to practice every night?
Right.
Who's coaching your
Right.
softball? Like what do you know? I mean, you can't do it all, but yes, sometimes you become a little detached at home if you have to be. And I think, that's something that I've also tried to find a
Yeah.
balance of like, again, time. That email can wait. I can spend some time, with the kids and not be so, it's hard. The
Yeah.
balance is hard, but
Balance is super hard. Being present is hard. All parenting is hard. And anyone
Yeah.
who thinks it's not is just full of shit. Like
Crazy.
there is no way.
Yeah.
I do want to get to our quick response questions. I know
Sure.
we need to wrap it up. We're going super long. But we love talking to you. So
Cut some of it out, please.
no, never.
No way.
All right. So our quick response questions. They're 5 questions. You just
God.
answer whatever comes to mind, whatever off the top of your head. You don't have to answer a long thing, just a quick
Don't worry,
response.
I've talked enough. Please.
But we want to make sure people get to know like the fun bits about you. So question number 1, what do you do when you first get up in the morning?
Brush my teeth, but eat something. I eat the second I wake up, like
Yeah.
within 10 minutes.
Oh, and I forgot to say I'm not allowed to ask follow-up questions, which tortures me every time.
Oh,
They
Yeah, she
always have
immediately
follow-up
wants to know what
questions.
you eat when you wake
Yeah,
up.
naturally.
we get another
Like what brand of
conversation
toothpaste are we using? Like
Yeah,
there's so many
exactly.
questions.
I
Question number 2. What is your favorite movie?
My gosh.
To be clear, this would stump me entirely. I could not name a movie right now if you begged me to name a movie.
My favorite like movie of all time is The Goonies. Like, but that's like
Nice.
going way back.
No,
It's
that's
not my favorite like adult movie. It's my favorite movie of all time.
yeah. I
Just
love
gonna
that.
leave it there.
Number 3. What is in your purse?
Oh my gosh. Please. Chapstick, a little lip gloss. I rarely even wear makeup. I just don't have time. And AirPods and my wallet and a stick of gum and my computer and my life and my planner and my notes and my and my water bottle and an iced coffee.
Love
That
it.
is my purse.
In my head, and I'm whatever. In my head, there was also like a screwdriver and like a measuring tape.
And my measuring tape. Yeah. My measuring tape, architectural plans,
Yep.
blueprints.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything.
Question number 4. Who was your teen heartthrob / crush?
Oh my God.
Who do you have posters of on the wall?
Oh, what was his name? I mean, I always love Leonardo DiCaprio. He was my number 1, I think. But then there was like, I love like River Phoenix. It was like not alive anymore, but yeah, he was like one of the top ones for sure.
Definitely.
Leo, yeah, definitely.
All right, last question. Number 5. What is the best piece of advice you have received?
Oh my God, quick fire. It sounds so dumb, but I think like one of the best is, and I don't do it well, but don't sweat the small stuff. I don't listen to that half the time, but somebody said that to me not long ago and in my adventures of what I do in life, and you got to not sweat the small stuff. And I don't do that, but it is something good to listen to.
It is.
Try.
It's hard to do. but it's very good advice. We are so happy you joined us today. I'm speaking for Tova, but I know I'm right. We just love talking to you. You are your energy is fantastic. It's infectious and wonderful, and I love it. Where can people find you? Like social media, website, where should people
Awesome.
look for you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the first of all, this was an absolute pleasure. And I know I can talk. I go off, I talk, but
I love it.
it's such an honor to be with two amazing women and be able to talk about anything. And again, my life is so far from it is chaos, and there's such a journey that you have to get to anywhere. And I'm like so happy to talk to anybody at any point because life is crazy. But reach out to me on Instagram. I think my Instagram handle is my maiden name, Danny Can Fit, Cann. I haven't switched it over to Kermizian because I can barely pronounce it myself. So it's just
That's
Danny,
fair.
Dani, Danny Can, Cann Fit. But the easiest way to find me, obviously, you could just go to the Compound Official NJ, and that's our Instagram. And I control most of those DMs, so I'm always around. Or yeah,
Fantastic.
Awesome.
We will share all of that in the show notes too, and on our social media, so everyone can find you that wants to. And we suggest if you're in the region, you go to the Compound. It is a very
Yes.
cool place.
Oh,
Danny, I
thank
know you guys always have events going on and stuff too. So check out their
Yeah.
website and see what's happening. And if you can
Yes.
attend, that's fantastic. Anything else you want to add, Tova? I sort of took over the end there.
No, that's fine. I want to go to the Compound now, and it's raining, and I'm like, ooh,
Nova,
something
let's go.
warm.
Go
Something
ahead.
warm would
Let's
be
go. Get you
great.
your latte.
Yeah.
What do you get? Matcha? I think you
I
get
get everything. I just get everything.
Yeah.
Tova's love language is warm beverages.
Yes.
Of all varieties.
Although
I drink iced even when it's 20
I was going to
degrees
say
out.
last week
Do you?
I was there and I was like, can I please have an Arnold Palmer? I get them all the time from you.
That's
It's so
I have to.
amazing because it's so rare. It's great to use those ingredients because not everyone's getting iced teas and ice and lemonades right now. But like, in the summer, you can't keep it in stock. So I'm glad you're using it. Thank God.
I have had 2 Arnold Palmers in the last month from you guys
It's
because
very
I still
refreshing.
love them.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
Love them.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so much for joining us. We really
yeah.
appreciate it. And
Yeah, we loved
we'll
it.
see you soon.
Definitely. All right. So we will be back next week, everyone, with another episode on how to live your limitless life. Reach out to us on social media at Go Boldly Together. You can find us in all the normal places. Email us, whatever you want to do works for us. We want to hear from you guys. And until next week, everyone, be well, have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you all soon.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.